last time we went through web development and product service development, patents, stuff like that. I can't open up, like we got the same problem as we had last time with the laptop, but basically just a reminder to everyone. The important thing about Dreamweaver, the very end of last time for the quiz eventually, is the fact that you need to do like new website, and then the fact that you need to fill out the FTP server and stuff like that, and then you're going to put documents up to, like, once you've made the document you need to upload, then there's a little arrow that puts things up. Those were the main things that I wanted to focus on in terms of useful buttons. If you only know how to click 3 buttons in Dreamweaver, these are the 3 buttons you should know how to click. So I don't have that recorded on a podcast. I just wanted to underline again that those were the important things for the quiz. I'll go back and look at exactly what I put down as the question, but everything else you can go back and look at the podcasts. That one you can't, so I wanted to make sure to reiterate. But I'm also going to make a note. Check quiz Dreamweaver. I'm going to check and make sure. I don't want to like pull a question on you guys that you actually don't have reference to in the podcast. So everything else is recorded and then it's getting further recorded today. So we have customer acquisition and guerrilla marketing and competitor research today. And then 4 more topics next week, and the lightning round of my lectures will be done, and we'll start working on the projects. Well, with a quiz in the middle. So there's a whole bunch of slides for the first presentation here. I always say that I'm going to go through things quickly, and then I like talking and I ramble, and all of a sudden, like, time expands or contracts to fill whatever, like, allotted schedule we have here. So let me see if I can actually stick to that goal. Course documents. Customer acquisition, guerrilla marketing. Okay, so for those of you who, again, have taken my small business manager, or my 340 class, my entrepreneurship class, this is going to look kind of similar. There's a little bit different, but basically, I focus a lot in that class on developing customer vignettes. The actual format is not as important to me here, but and I think, Jing, in some ways, like when we're talking about the business plan elements that you want to do for the scooter, like there's so much information that we can find out about, especially at a price point like you've got a consumer product, basically it's a couple $100. But whether it's consumer or business to business networking, the brave new world of social media that we live in today, you basically never have to have a cold contact with someone ever again. You know, back in the good old days, I would pick up the phone and make cold calls and talk to complete strangers on the phone and find new business. Nobody really has to do that anymore. Sometimes you can, but you don't really have to most of the time. You can find information on, like, if you decide I want to find, people within a certain age group with a certain income who live in a certain part of Bakersfield, and that's our target for the scooter. Between like people and I know and that he knows and she knows and she knows and he knows and he knows and she knows, you can get a whole lot of contacts and referrals just through LinkedIn by going through people that. But because it's so easy to get information on people, you can get overloaded. You can get overloaded with like just too much information. So it's important to start by like having a focus on what you want to know about your target customers. So, are they consumers? Are they businesses? I'm not going to read down the rest of this. In particular, this where and when do they buy? It's really important to know the basic price point, the basic marketing and advertising channels that people use. So when you find sample customers, do they use do they use Google a lot? Do they ever click on Google AdWords searches, or do they never actually click on things? What magazines and newspapers do they read? Where do they go out to dinner? Like, what kind of magazines do they read? What websites do they visit a lot for sports news or entertainment or whatever? You want to know that because that's going to tell you what probably all the rest of their customers look like, and it's going to tell you where you should place your advertising materials. So that question is really important. The price point, like understanding how much people are willing to buy for something, is really important for doing all of the market sizing and financial projections that you can end up doing later for stuff. And knowing who the current customers are is also really important. Finally, getting demographics is key. So once you have sort of, this is an ideal customer for us. If it's a like person, you want to know their age, marital status, income, occupation, not because these things are necessarily relevant for the customer's need for your product, but because publicly available data sources like the Census Bureau and stuff like that, they're organized according to age, marital status, income, occupation, residential location. They're not organized according to who has a desire and need to use a scooter between public transportation and like places on the other side of campus they need to go. There's no way to reference that information in a public database. But you can figure out that like if 5 different people that really are like they're lining up to be the first ones to buy the scooter, if there's 5 different people who are all basically late 20-something, largely male students on this campus who all tend to live in like the northeast part of town, then like even though none of those characteristics tell you why they like the scooter, you can count how many other people there are like that based on public data sources. So really important to write down basic demographics. If it's a business that you're targeting rather than a person, you want to know the industry the business is in, the size, the number of employees, the amount of revenues, the number of employees, basic information about that business so you can find other businesses just like it to target as customers. You want to do this before starting to go forward with all the rest of the guerrilla marketing stuff. So this is an example of how this would look filled in. Bunch of different like bullet points here on questions to fill out basically about the product. So a product service vignette. Without going into details, it's important to ask yourself these basic questions about whatever product you want to present. I think the important thing here is the whole point is guerrilla marketing. A lot of this is going over digital media, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, it's Google AdWords posts, it's blog postings. You have a very limited amount of time that you're going to have somebody's attention. So even though depending on the business in here and the project you're working on, there may be, if we look at the like Downtown Business Association, they got like 20, 30 different businesses downtown they love to promote, but they've got like 5 seconds of your attention when like somebody does outreach, and then you're busy, you're done, you're moving on. So they have to choose: are we going to talk about Fox Theater? Are we going to talk about like new stuff going on for First Friday? Are we going to talk about stuff that's going on at the Padre? You got one little window, so you got to choose what is it that you want to pitch and answer these questions about it, so it's all ready to go and put into your email blasts, your posts, banners if you put them up, and focus on a single particular product, market it in a very specific way. Even if after the Padre project, DBA goes forward and then they do the Mint project, and then they do like the was it like Natural History Museum or whatever project. And then finally, the dude that owns the hobby store there on Chester, the little models, like toy models and stuff, he finally like gets over being grumpy and decides he wants to do a project and find more people that want to build models, and then they do one for him. You have to pick them one at a time, even if you can do them all the time. So I'd like you to be able to answer questions like this about exactly what is the offer we're pitching. So, Jane, even if there's sort of different models of scooters that could be in different colors and so forth, like, the immediate message, if we're targeting like a certain type of basic user, because our next goal is to have sort of 10 prototype users, I don't know, just saying like, it would make us look more legit for the crowdfunding to have 10 people that like are writing it regularly rather than just like your brother and his friend. So let's say that's the goal. So we have a very specific model, very specific like call, like we need 10 people who can volunteer 20 hours their week. And if you break it, you buy it. But otherwise we need people that are going to like show off our scooter. And that's the message. Even if there's all kinds of different price points and colors that you eventually want to sell, the first message is just that. I don't know if that's it or not, but very specific description of a single product with a single set of features. It's important to, once you have that message, to then chop out the relevant information from the bullet points and the vignette you put together to chunking it into whatever media is appropriate. So this is an example of the types of information that are important for Groupon, types of information important to do a Google AdWords campaign. In particular, has anybody used Google AdWords? Okay, so basically, it's really cool. Like you can choose how much you want to spend on marketing. So, I barely have any money at all. $20, that's my monthly limit for marketing. So you put $20 in your like Google AdWords account and you say, I'm willing to pay 99 cents per click. Okay, here the example is $50 per month and 99 bucks a click. And then these are the AdWords that I like. These are the words. If somebody searches on these things, like my ad is like the first one that should come up. So basically, there's other people that also put those words in. I'm not the only one, or in this case, this golf venture from back when I taught this class in Cincinnati, they're not the only ones who have these words. If somebody else bids $1.50, their ad comes first, and then yours. If you're only bidding 99 cents and you have the same keywords. But let's say that I did get like people to click on it. Once, 51? Like what? 49 and a half, no, 50.5 people, because 99 cents, like 1 cent less than $1 each time. So by the time we get up to 50, it's going to be $4.50. But 99 will put me over. So once it gets to 50 customers, it'll stop. It won't put my ad up on Google anymore until I put more money in my account and tell Google, okay, I got some more money this month. Go ahead, put me back up until you get to 100. So you can control really easily how much money you spend on the advertising. Now, obviously, nobody's probably going to get rich by like 99 cent clicks for $50. Like, you may need to have like 100 or 200 or 300 people click on your ad before you get somebody. And there may only be 1 or 2 people per month that click. So, like, if you're, it may be very, very tiny, but you can really control well the targeting. The better you pick these words and the better you make this description, the more often you're going to get clicks on your button, and the more appealing your website is and your offer once people get there, the more often you're going to get people to buy. But it's a really, really cheap, easy, fast. You could start tomorrow. Tonight we can leave this room. Tomorrow we could be advertising the class on Google AdWords. It's really fast and really easy. Word of mouth. I'm going to talk a lot. I'm going to talk more about this in a little while. I am like blown away by what's possible with LinkedIn and Facebook. I started talking about it a little bit in the context of your guys' professional development, and your professional images, but it's absolutely amazing from a sales perspective what you can do with LinkedIn and Facebook and all the rest of the platforms. Those are the two I'm familiar with most right now, but it's amazing what you can do. But regardless of whether you're leveraging social media or doing it old school and just talking with people face to face, word of mouth campaigns usually work best when you have like champions. So, I mean, if we extend the scooter metaphor for a second, like, Angel that you met earlier today, huge fan of the scooter. She's like, oh my God, we could do this, and we could do this, and we could do this. She could hardly stop talking fast enough, So she's excited about it. Like, if she were to go out and tell 5 people per week, this is a good deal. Like, if she went out and told 5 potential investors per week, so forget about crowdfunding for a second. She goes out and tells potential angel investors, 5 a week. Come at the end of the month, we're going to set up a little racetrack and around the campus and really open it up, and everybody can test it out, and potential investors should come for the event. And her goal is to find at least 3 or 5 investors that'll come to the event. And whether you do that by reaching out to people via LinkedIn and Facebook, or you do it old school with a handshake or a phone call, same thing. Even though you have access to everybody on Facebook and LinkedIn, somebody has to take the damn time to sit their butt down in a chair and comb through contacts and go, that one, yeah, that one, and then send them a damn message, or send me a message if it's my contact, and say, Jeremy, can you please contact this person and tell them about the event? You got to have champions that are responsible for a certain number of referrals. So I'll get back to that a little bit more later with clicking through. Actually, with some examples that I got posted on Blackboard. Street promo, basically posters, flyers, little cards, stuff like that. Really useful, especially when you do it combined with word of mouth. So, I mean, it's really pretty cheap to print up posters and business cards and stuff like that these days, but it still it still pains me to spend $25-50 on a bunch of nice looking flyers and posters, and then you set them on the table in this room, and by the end of the day they're all strewn around campus on the frickin' ground, and no one took them. Even though maybe a few people saw your brand and so it helps a little bit, you want if we use another example, so let's talk about the crowdfunding thing is a very specific thing, but let me think that's not a good example. Let me take the restaurant example. If we ended up doing the Coconut Joe's thing and we wanted to find new customers for Coconut Joe's, rather than printing up a bunch of posters or flyers, little 3 trifold handouts, and putting them all around campus, use Coconut Joe's for events. As much as people might like Coconut Joe's, most of those are going to go right into frickin' trash. So it would be much better to talk with the various departments and other people I know in other departments around campus. Okay, this department, our small business development center, we're going to have a meeting next month. We could, instead of having it at the office, we could do it at Coconut Joe's, and we'll pay a couple $100 and use the room, and it'll be comfortable. So instead of wasting all those flyers around campus, there's one person like me or Mark Evans here in this building. You hand 20 flyers to that person, and they make sure that the people who are going to use it get that flyer pressed in their hands. So it's really easy, fast, and cheap to print up materials, but usually works a lot better if you know who you want to receive it and you have a champion, again, who's going to make sure that it gets there. Tracking potential customers. I personally do a lot of stuff in Outlook. This is actually my a screenshot of my personal Outlook. this is the contact folder in Outlook, and these are actually back in the day when I was running Market Driver. I had projects, and I had there's a MD project Voda. Voda was one of my customers, and so any contact that I found that was relevant in some way to Voda that might be like a lead for them, I would record in here. And then for my company, finding new customers, this is like the sort of the top level partners are people who I'm already working with. Booked revenues are brand new deals. Sign contracts like we haven't started the deal yet, but people sign something, all the way down to I don't know them from a hole in the wall. And like incredibly important that as you start reaching out and looking for customers in whatever kind of guerrilla marketing you're doing, whether it's getting clicks through Google AdWords, whether it's doing a bunch of referrals through LinkedIn and Facebook, like every time you find a new name, like whether they ever end up being a customer or it's just a name, I'll show you like the spreadsheets we put together last spring, record everything. I can't stress enough how important it is to have something. Could even be a spreadsheet, doesn't have to be Outlook. It could be an Access database, could just be a spreadsheet. I wouldn't recommend Word because you want to be able to like sort and search, so at least a spreadsheet, if not a database. Outlook is basically, I mean, Richard probably knows this, right? Outlook is a crap database. Like it's kind of a database, but it's got all kinds of like hobbled characteristics and properties. So I'm addicted to the front end, but it's a terrible like product for having a true relational database. Access is much better than trying to fart around with Outlook. But you could use Outlook, you can use Access. I've mentioned a couple of products here just for for small businesses which are not micro businesses, at least a couple of customers. Some good products that you can actually pay for that are specifically designed to track sales contacts. So I've mentioned a few of these things before, but like first 2 points I've kind of mentioned already. Like it's amazing in addition to once you know your customer profile and you start reaching out in, whether it's, I always recommend starting with the social media and with word of mouth. I mean, there's so many referrals you can get without ever having to spend a dime on advertising. I always recommend starting with that. And then once you find out, okay, so I went through LinkedIn, and if I use the trucking company as an example, so whichever trucking venture we end up doing, like basically trucking companies need people that make stuff or grow stuff, things. I mean, they need physical things that need to be transported from point A to point B. Like if you don't have customers that have things that need to be transported somewhere, you don't have a business. So, you're looking for referrals to people who own and run businesses that make stuff that need to be transported. And each of you, over the course of like focusing on business A or business B, Abigail, you probably know more about like the kinds of customers your family's company usually uses, I imagine. So, what kind of companies are they? What products do you ship normally?
A lot of refrigerated stuff.
Refrigerated? Not refrigerators. Like you're not shipping like.
We do a lot of ice cream here in Bakersfield, so the dryers.
Oh, cool. So if Dryers finishes making the ice cream, you pick it up and take it in a refrigerated truck somewhere? Where do you take it?
Florida.
To Florida? Are you serious? Isn't there a Dryers manufacturing location closer to Florida?
Well, low-key, it's the ice cream that goes to Disney World.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So if you've got refrigerated stuff, in addition, if you've got trucks that carry refrigerated goods, then in addition to Dryers ice cream, you might want like other products that need to stay cold.
We need to find someone else who can get us around Florida back to California.
Yes, I forgot. Like that's like I had an ex-girlfriend that ran a large. She ran a warehouse for Design Within Reach, So like high-end furniture, like they would, the trucker said this, like whoever they would hire, like wouldn't want to take the job if they were going someplace where they couldn't find their load back. So yeah, I get it. So once you know, like we need somebody that's got cold stuff in Florida that needs to go to California. Like then you start going out and, you know, I know somebody that makes cold stuff, and Richard knows somebody, and then, you know, buddy of mine that I know from Indianapolis knows somebody in Florida that like makes cold stuff. And once we've got a short list, then you can go into Merchant, you can go into Chamber of Commerce. There's a lot of different places you can go. It wouldn't be Bakersfield. If we're looking for somebody in Florida, it's going to be like the Orlando Chamber of Commerce, you know. But you can go in and find out more information about the location of the company. Maybe you can find their website and read a little bit. Like you got a lot of material that you already know before you ever talk to the person. And it all started by like finding the name and the type of company you're looking for, fill in a name in the blank, and then start filling in information you can find out about them. A lot of things you don't have to call them and ask. You can go to their website. You can find a lot of information once you know who your mark is, basically. Document everything I talked about. Don't take rejection personally. It's a numbers game. Like new customers development, whether it's sales or marketing or anything else, like 9 people are going to say no for every one person that says yes. It's just the way it is. When you're trying to find a new job, when you're trying to find new customers, anything. So I'm not going to spend too much time here. This is some really great information about how to actually manage a sales funnel. I don't know if I have anything to quiz from this slide, but for those of you who are doing more sales-intensive projects and are really like going all out, like building a large like list and database of customers, incredibly important books there that I refer to at the bottom. And I guess the most important thing is that once you actually start talking with, if you're selling a product which has a significant price, so trucking company, good example. I mean, you don't ship a like container load of cold stuff across country for like $20, you know, like people are going to pay a significant amount of money for that. So like getting them talking about like why, if they've never like seen your company before, getting them talking about why in the hell do they not already have someone that's taking it across country for them. Is it because the last time like the dude was drunk, that they couldn't depend on the driver? Was it because the price is too much? Is because it's like the person that is the dispatcher is a pain in the ass? What is it? Like, what's the problem? Why do they need help? Like, the more you get people talking about what their problems are, the more you can help. The more they go from being a contact to being a customer. If we're talking about lower price stuff, so Jane with the scooter, like you're targeting such a low price point, you're going to be doing a sales job with investors, but the price point's too low to fart around like trying to convince somebody to buy a $200 scooter. Just buy it, man. Either you have it positioned so it's so easy to buy and it's so convenient that people do it, or you need to change the marketing up. But a price point at that level doesn't justify one-on-one selling. A price point for a whole container load worth of shipping cross country, that justifies getting people to talk about their problems. But like sales, first of all, is a numbers game, and second of all, it's about getting the person that you want to buy something talking about what their problems are and what they need. The more they talk, the more you learn about them and the more they become a customer. Long story short. Advertising channels. Online events, street promo, word of mouth. I've given some examples of each of those before in the like advertising materials by medium. Except for events. I think this slide kind of like all 4 of these are pretty much like things that any small business, as long as you at least have one person working on the business or 2, any like private individual has enough money in their bank account normally to do street promo, word of mouth, events, or online. Events can be a little bit more expensive if you really want to do it up properly, but you could certainly. Is it Platinum Entertainment? Is that right? So, I mean, if Platinum basically like DJs events, if there were an event around town, like if you wanted to try and find new people to do DJ events for, you could either rent out a hall and have it just for the event, and all the people who might do high-end parties in some way, invite them all there, or you could do it like lowbrow and like old school and just say, show up to the gig on Saturday night, show up to the gig, knock on the door at this time, ask for this person, you can hang out with us backstage, see if you like the vibe. That's practically free. Or you could really do it out and have a open bar available, and they can get more expensive, but it doesn't have to be. So all of these things are basically things that every small business should be able to do from a guerrilla marketing perspective. Longer term, I wanted to add some stuff in here just so you have the information. Outdoor radio. Has anybody in here in your jobs or your family's businesses had experience buying advertising in one of these media? It's actually, TV, $5.99 is not bad, or $2.26 for a CPM. Anybody know what CPM stands for? Marketing people in here? It stands for cost per pro mil. It's basically the cost per 1,000 eyeballs. So the people that have big billboards on the side of the road, they have a calculation of how many cars drive by there every day, how many average people there are in a car. And so, let's say that they calculate that the intersection of, what is it, Gosford? Is that right? Gosford goes on one side of campus, and then, is that right? Am I right? No, Coffee.
Stockdale Highway.
No. I mean the other direction. So Stockdale and Ming, or Stockdale and
Camino Media.
Camino Media, and then what are the other two? The ones that goes north-south.
Gosford,
yeah. So we could make a calculation that the intersection between Stockdale Highway and Gosford, or perhaps more relevant, we could say that on an average day, the space between the northbound 99 between Ming and California has, I don't know, let's say a car per second, maybe. So there's 60 seconds in an hour, and let's just call it 20 hours of daylight in a day. So 20 times 60 seconds, and then a minute, and then 60 times 60 is going to be 1,200. Times 20 is 24,000. Is that right?
No. Random.
Huh?
Very random math.
Did I get it wrong? So there's 3,600 seconds in an hour. So that's 3,600 cars per hour, and then multiply 3,600 by 20 hours. Forget about the 4, just multiply by 20. So, okay, 72,000, right? So basically, according to that calculation in rough numbers, it would cost you $150 to have a billboard between Ming and California for one day. So you can't just buy one day. That's the problem with TV, radio, print, or outdoor. You can't just buy one day of a billboard. As soon as they put the billboard up, it's going to stay there for the whole month. So, 30 days in a month. So you're basically in for $4,500 if you want. I'm just making these numbers up off the top of my head, but more or less, if that's the cost per thousand, and we just estimated more or less how many cars go by that stretch of the road on a daily basis, you're going to probably pay $4,500 or $5,000 just to get in the game. So in Vegas terms, it's a $5,000 table. Like, you can't get into the table with a bet of less than $5,000. That's the problem with these media. They're really cheap per person contacted. TV sometimes is great. Like Super Bowl ads, depending on what your product is. Yes?
Well, it also depends on print too, if it's a larger or smaller publication. Like my dad worked as a contractor up in Tehachapi, and he advertised in a small local publication, and it didn't cost him very much at all. And a number of people came to him and they were like, "Oh yeah, we saw your ad in the paper," and it got him several contracts.
Yes.
And it was pretty cheap.
So obviously, like a small local newspaper or like News Weekly kind of thing,
Right.
has a lot like a News Weekly in Tehachapi. But what you said Tehachapi, right?
Yeah.
So what's the population of Tehachapi? 10,000?
I mean,
30? I don't know.
On the larger area, yeah, it's like 30,000.
Okay, so let's say, like, in the population, that like not everybody in Tehachapi reads the damn News Weekly. So let's say that effectively 10,000 people read it, and it comes out, but 10,000 people actually look at it, but not everybody actually goes to the page that ad happens to be on.
Right.
So let's say that 1,000 see it per week. So according to that, right about $6, halfway in between these two numbers. 6 times 4, your dad would have paid about $25 for that ad. That's not bad. You get a couple customers out of it, not bad. Obviously, there's a range, but it's going to cost more in the Bakersfield, California, than it does in like the Tehachapi, like Coupon Express News Weekly, and it's going to cost more for a Super Bowl ad than it is for an ad at 2:00 in the morning on a Tuesday on like the local public assets channel here. So obviously, it all has to do with how many eyeballs you're looking at, but in general, these are more expensive. Like, it takes more to get into the game to begin with in a lot of these than it does to do print or street promo or word of mouth. But I did want to leave this here because, kind of like your dad, sometimes there are pretty cheap print options. And sometimes you can actually get a TV spot late at night in this town, and if you happen to be targeting people who, if you happen to be targeting people who are watching like ESPN at 3:00 in the morning after like eating Taco Bell, like, hey, you might be able to get a deal on ESPN for the local market for that time zone, if that happens to be your target audience. So sometimes it works. Usually you have to pay a pretty high price to get into the game to begin with these things, but I did want to list them for you. The important thing from all these slides, without getting into detail, they're all here. You can go back to the podcast and review them while you're taking the quiz. You can look at the slides. I wanted to list, like, to me, there's sort of like, there's, how you have like fork, spoon, knife, like, if you start getting fancy, like the salad fork, there's usually some serving spoons. There's a normal repertoire that you have in a like drawer full of silverware. Your small business, like online advertising silverware drawer, should have keywords. Like every single, like, I can't think of a venture that shouldn't define what your keywords are and get something on Google AdWords. You can do it for $5 and you get nothing to lose. Like defining keywords, some basic ones, doing the best you can at it. Having a basic banner ready. Sometimes banners are a waste of money, sometimes they're worth it, but they're pretty easy to like place in different places, and you want to at least have one ready. With what I showed you guys with the graphic design tools and the web development tools, it's not that hard between the members of the team for your project to pool your talent to get something together that looks halfway decent, and be able to post something if you find out that most of your target customers all go to like Yahoo Finance once a week. So, okay, cool. We'll post it on Yahoo Finance and just target people from Bakersfield, and post a banner there. Might actually help if everybody tends to go there all the time. If you can't find one particular website that a lot of your target customers go to, it probably doesn't make much sense to place a banner. But it usually it helps to have one in your back pocket in case you need it. Blast emails, which basically the same editing tool that I showed you guys for editing websites, you can actually use to create HTML emails. So there's also tools in Outlook and so forth. I mean, you can embed the graphics and everything right into the email, and instead of saying click here and go to our website, just send the website to the customer. Usually having like rich graphics and some basic text, no more than a paragraph or two, in an email format is part of your repertoire that you want to have as well. So as you start to build more people's email addresses, you can do that. Blog postings, whether you do this yourself or you have somebody else that's doing it, writing up, a page to 2-page articles on topics you're good at could actually just be gabbing and gossiping with friends on Facebook or whatever. I mean, it just depends on what your target is and what they pay attention to reading. But being able to produce a page or two of, no more than that, but a page or two of interesting value-added information, whether it's about social topics or it's about like expertise for how to save money on trekking, having a couple pages that you can have posted on LinkedIn forums. I mean, like we'll see here in a second. LinkedIn, I get messages every day now from like the consulting forum on LinkedIn with somebody like giving their two-page spiel on how to choose better projectors for less than $100. 9 times out of 10, I'm not interested, but every once in a while I'm like, oh wow, that's a really interesting topic, and I read and find the contact, and bang, I'm a new customer. Social media, we talked about tweets, additional materials like Groupon and so forth. I've listed a bunch of for each of those types of platforms. It changes every year. It's been 2 years or so since I updated the pricing on this, so some of these things have changed. But I think, if nothing else, a few of these apps are probably like, the name is still good, even if they're like 4 generations further along than the last time I updated this list. And technology changes so fast these days. But I tried to list for your website some basic information about hosting and everything, price-wise, some basic apps that will help you optimize the website, apps that will help you optimize your Google AdWords, apps that will help you make it easier to like share pictures among different LinkedIn pages. I've tried to list something useful in each one and a few comments. So this is for your reference going forward, depending on what direction. I mean, when you leave this class, not just for the projects in this class, but when you leave this class, for what it's worth, it's kind of a quick reference on useful things to know about several of those platforms. SEO here at the end, quick. There's companies that do it. There's a lot you can do yourself just by using the tools that are made available to you for free from especially Google, to a lesser extent Bing and Yahoo and other places. There's a whole lot of things you can do, like embedding in the HTML text that nobody ever sees. Like if the search, getting higher on the Google's, not the AdWords results, but the main results, maybe for your trucking company, like if the way that the Google like crawlers work, if you went in and put like in the same color, so the background of the website is white, and you put in white words, like cheap nationwide trucking, cheap nationwide trucking, cheap nationwide trucking. Like it's plastered across the entire website, but it's in the background, so you can't actually see it. It helps the results come up higher. There's little tricks like that you can do so that you pop up higher on a regular Google search, not just on the stuff you pay for on the right-hand side. So this is pretty much all about that. A couple of vendors that offer tools for that. And then finally, the last thing here, market sizing. Whenever the process in like going forward with guerrilla marketing and networking, customer acquisition should more or less be identify what your ideal customer looks like. Go out first and find as many of them, or at least people that can introduce you to them, as possible through social media. Then from there, based on what the group of people, maybe 20 or 30 that you've assembled, based on what they use for advertising media in their own lives, what websites they visit, where do they drive their damn car, do they pay attention to billboards, what magazines do they read, etc., etc., etc. Once you know that, then you roll out the rest of the advertising strategy. Same thing goes for businesses. I mean, businesses read trade journals too. They visit websites for their business. Could be an industry association website. So the National Association of Trucking Companies, I don't know, maybe that actually is a great place to put ads, depending. Instead of like, having it at ESPN for somebody that's basically going to be surfing for sports news and then happens to find an advertisement. Like maybe your advertisement is going to be on a website for trucking companies. I don't know. But once you find out what those people, what advertising media they use, how much they are willing to spend, whether it's a company to ship stuff across country, whether it's, again, crowdfunding is a little bit different, but in broad brushstrokes terms, we're looking for, I mean, if nothing else, the price point makes sense because there's probably going to be a sweet spot of the type of people that will donate or get involved. And depending on what kind of person likes the project and what kind of project it is, and this goes back to the scooter project again because we may actually kind of have some overlap between projects. We may find out that like the types of people who think the project's cool look like me and Angel, So we're in our mid-40s. Like for a project I think is cool, I'd be willing. I can put out like pops of investment in the hundreds per pop. Maybe maybe somebody that crowdfunds a venture like Platinum Entertainment. If Platinum Entertainment wanted to raise funds, perhaps we're actually talking about like 20-something music fans, and they're going to be putting in 25 a pop instead of 100 or 200. So the price point's important, and the demographics. So once you know who these like sample like initial customers are, how old are they, or if it's a company, how big is the company? Like I said before, once you can answer these things, you can count how many other people there are like that out in Bakersfield, in California, in the United States, in North America, and you can start making this decision. Okay, like according to our calculations, we could raise up to $500,000 for this venture. Well, if it's a venture that actually only needs 50 to get going, like I think. The director of our SBDC, he and his son did a crowdfunding project for his son's venture like last year. It's a food truck. So they put all this stuff, like presented all this stuff on the crowdfunding site. They wanted to get money to like actually be able to pay for food supplies as well as like part of the payment for the truck. I think they raised 20 or 30 grand. That was enough. That was enough for them to buy the supplies and the truck that they needed. And he's in business, driving around Fresno, like delivering food at like offices, like sitting outside like during the lunch hour, and people come up to the truck. So if it only needs 50 grand and you can raise 500, awesome. Like this is we got a business. We're in business. If it's instead, let's talk about like the indoor soccer thing. Like if there isn't an effective indoor soccer venue, and is there? I mean, anybody know like here in the like south end of the Central Valley? Is there a good place to go to somewhere in Kern County for indoor soccer? Or not?
I know there is one. My friend plays, and I see stuff on Instagram. I don't know where it's located.
Is the quality any good?
It looks like a legit.
Cool. I mean, like I said in my example, like I played indoor in the off season when I wasn't playing in high school. I played indoor in a converted bowling alley that had like that much AstroTurf on top of the concrete. So not real, like it existed, but there's probably an opportunity for a better facility in the Indianapolis market. So if there's already a top flight facility, maybe what's needed is a low end. But anyway, if you're really going to like sign a long-term contract for a lease and do all that stuff, it may be that you need, by the time you do all the renovations and all the changes you need or build a new location, you might need $1 million. Well, if you can only raise $500,000, no deal. Like, don't even go forward. So, customer profile, like beta customers with social networking and word of mouth, initial group of customers with additional outreach, figure out what the demographics of the customer are, make a decision whether it makes sense to go forward. That's the basic, process. If you end up doing market sizing as part of the project, there's, for those of you in my business strategy class, you've heard this before as well, but there's basically three types of assumptions and types of data that you're going to do in any kind of market sizing. So the first is hard data, and the biggest thing here is that whenever you go out to like the Census Bureau or like economic figures about the number of small businesses in Kern County, like it's never perfect. You got to take what you can get. So you're going to have to like take a square peg and make it fit in a round hole. So if you can find like the number of males between 25 and 30 in Rosedale, like what you may actually need is like you may need the number of males between like 25 and 40 in Rosedale, Oildale, and then for other markets, the same exact stuff for Lancaster and Taft and other places. But you can't find the other ones, but you can find Rosedale. So based on about how big Rosedale is, and okay, if nothing else, you find a hard number that you found somewhere on like the Census Bureau or the city of Bakersfield's official website. This is how many like 20-year-olds males there are in Rosedale. And then if you do nothing else but like just look at, so that's the hard data, and then we're going to have to do some adjustments later, but these other things are based on assumptions. So the first time, like I said, is hard data. The next is anecdotal evidence. So maybe if the map of Bakersfield, like you got the 99 here in Rosedale High, and Stockdale Highway there. I mean, it's basically a grid. It looks like a square, right? And that's the Kern River, more or less. I mean, it's the Kern River bed, but you know what I mean. And Rosedale's up here somewhere, isn't it? Am I right? I just moved here a year ago, so is that right?
Yeah.
More or less, and then Oildale's kind of here. So, like, in rough terms, if I just look at the map, I could say that Rosedale is more or less like 1/6 of the entire map. We could have like 3 areas on the top and 3 areas on the bottom. Maybe there's 9. It's like a tic-tac-toe board. So like whatever. If I have the numbers for Rosedale and I actually want the numbers for all of Bakersfield, an anecdotal assumption would be, I'm looking at the map and like geographically, Rosedale covers about 1/9 of the map. So ballpark figures, why don't we multiply whatever the Rosedale number is by 9? And that's probably close to the Bakersfield number. So that's your anecdotal assumption. It's based on some kind of fact, or a lot of times your anecdotal assumption will be, I know for a fact that there's this many 20-year-olds. I know from having talked with 10 of them who are in our beta customers that they're willing to pay $150 a piece. So there's no report from the Census Bureau that says 25-year-olds in Rosedale are willing to pay $150 for a scooter. But we know 20 of them at least who told us, with their own words, that they're willing to pay $150. So based on that information, we'll assume that the price is $150. And then you've got to do other things like you're going to make arbitrary assumptions. So the last one is on educated guesses. And even if we now know the total number of 20-something males in Rosedale, and then we multiplied by 9 to get the number for Bakersfield, not everybody's going to, let me switch to a different venture. Not everyone is going to buy, let's assume that the target market for radiators, am I missing the entire, oh no, Silvino is here. So the radiator company, if we switch to that, obviously there's other radiator companies in town, There's not just one shop forget, what was your teammate's name? The one that has the boyfriend that has the family with the radiator. Anyway, there's lots of radiator shaped shops in town. So once you find out that your customers are 20-something and they're somewhere in Bakersfield and they're willing to pay $150 for a radiator, not all of them are going to buy a radiator from you, but who knows how many other shops there are in town off the top of my head. So I know it's not just 2 or 3, but it's probably less than 50. So I don't know, 20 is less than 50 and more than 2. So why don't we divide whatever number we came up with here by 20, and then that's maybe the amount of the market we could actually get for our shop, because there's all kinds of other shops. And then you might multiply all those together in a nice fancy looking chart that looks like that, and come up with pretty numbers that investors like. So when we're talking about making a business plan, Jing, that looks nice for the potential investors later, they usually like it when it has nice straight lines and pretty colors, and there's lots of zeros at the end of the number. So, but you have to be able to justify that you came up with a number based on real facts. So that's the whole point of market sizing. Last thing here, I put some links in to where you can find good hard data for market sizing. Basically, if you're looking for consumers, these are 2 links that go to the U.S. Census Bureau's website. All kinds of great information about, how many 45-year-old, Caucasian but 164th Cherokee Indian professors there are in the state of California. The Census Bureau has got what you need. If you want to know how many law firms there are in Kern County, don't even bother looking at the Census Bureau. Go here. Although our current subscription to Mergent Online at our library sucks. We need to fix it, but we can start here, and then I can point you to some other locations as well. But basically, that'll tell you more information about businesses than the Census Bureau here. Consumers here, business target customers, you get the hard numbers here. That's the much longer lecture, the shorter of the 2 for the day, and then we leave. Actually, before I go to competitive research, I've got 2 examples for you here. This is from, anybody here know Pooji and Verso? Okay, Pooji was in this class last spring, and she and her boyfriend are working on a high-performance auto parts store. So when I say like, one of the things I want to know when we're talking about like customer acquisition and guerrilla marketing is, I was saying, describe your existing customers. So if you are, like, before you ever go out and start doing more networking on LinkedIn, tell me about who's already paying for the damn product. So, and this is the kind of stuff I want to know. This was a great example. This is the one that Fuji did for their performance auto parts store last spring. If I go to 100%, that's what it looks like when it fits on one page. I just put this in here as an example of how I would like it to look. So, first step before we like move forward and go network for new customers is to put together a chart that looks kind of like this, excuse me, that describes the existing customers of the business. And then this is an example of what we did next, but not for that project, for another one. This is a basic spreadsheet with like which member, there were 3 members of this team plus me as Professor Woods. We went through, found a bunch of names of prospects, either via Facebook or LinkedIn, simply made a note as to how we are connected to that person. So in this case, John David went in, he did a search on LinkedIn, found Alex DeNoble, because basically, in this case, we were looking for people who are in their like late 30s to early 50s who live somewhere near San Diego and seem to be making well in excess of $100,000 a year, preferably that have children. That was the target. We want 35 to 50-ish years old people who have kids who are in junior high or high school and are about to become empty nesters, who have like well over 6 figures of, like, I'd say well over 200 grand of combined household income, and live somewhere close to San Diego. That was the target. So based on that, I had like everybody go in to LinkedIn and start looking through my contacts. You can you can go into LinkedIn and just one after another look at everybody I know. And you can see from their picture about how old they are. You can't tell on LinkedIn that they have kids, but you can tell from the job description and the location what their income level is likely to be. And from their age, we've got 3 out of 4. So that's what I had John Davis do here. And you're just saying it's Jay Woods because I'm the one that actually knows Alex. So, and then John David went in and found Angie Moore. Is it Maureen or Moreland? Can't read it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Lucas Smith is some contact that John David knows, and Lucas knows Alex. So we simply went in and made a big list like this of everybody we found. Same thing on Facebook. I mean, you can sift through anybody's friends in Facebook, and most people's pictures are public. I mean, some people that get really like paranoid keep all their pictures private, but a lot of people just have them out there for everybody to see. So you can go in and look and see who has kids and who's the right age. And like if you're looking for restaurant customers, you can see who posts a bunch of pictures of them out at restaurants a lot. And that's probably going to be a good restaurant customer contact. And just make the list. And these aren't like, you don't necessarily know these people, but you know, basically Sabrina knows Ah-Sing knows Lisa. And Lisa, in this case, is a perfect target for that company. So we went together and put a list together of about 50 of these. That's kind of what I want you to do when you're doing a LinkedIn outreach project. Okay. Competitive research. Similar concept to the customer vignette. I want a basic profile about the customers, but about the competitors. So you're answering similar type of information, but just a little bit different. So if we go back to what venture have I not used an example yesterday? The beauty salon. So you know, there's there's beauty salons that, like, I guess I go to a beauty salon where actually I don't think of every time I've been there, I have yet to see another man there. Like, I'm the only man that goes there. So actually, I'm not really the target customer for them. Like, I might be one of like 5 or 10 men in the total customer base of this salon. Everybody else is women. So if we're looking at customer segment, we could say that blissful, I can't remember. It's around the corner from my house. Rachel is the one I go to. Anyway, you could say that they have 2 customer segments, men and women, okay? But the competitors, if I didn't go to Rachel's salon, there's a number of like sort of barbershop kind of places that I could go to if I found one that was convenient, that otherwise are not going to be competitors for the women. So they may be different competitors depending on what the customer segment is. And you're going to have like, if we go beyond sort of beauty products to boutique clothing, like, we haven't done it's not H2O. What was?
Yeah, that's your acronym. It's Hope to Others.
Hope to, yeah. H2O, right? Yeah, I did. Hope to Others. So as we start to expand, Hope to Others is a little bit different, but you said you do caps and what else?
Shirts.
So theoretically, there's some overlap, but you've got a slightly different mix of customers that like to buy caps as the ones that like to buy shirts. And you may have you probably do have a different customer that like people would buy t-shirts from if they didn't buy from you versus they would get their caps from. So it varies depending on business, but I want to know, I want you to be able to answer these questions, and especially what are they doing right now to, what are the features that are particularly good about their product? What's the price point they're offering it at? Where are they advertising their own product? And very importantly, like, what are their strengths and weaknesses, and how are you going to be different from them? The biggest thing I want to know is what makes you better, different, like, how are you going to be different than the competitor? So pricing, advertising in particular, whether the competitors vary by segment, and then what are their strengths and weaknesses, and how can you be different than them? This is an example of how one of my teams from back in Cincinnati did it for a real estate venture. This is how they profiled their competitor. I put a link here. This is a really nice page on Google that describes. And now it's it totally took me somewhere else. So copy and paste that rather than clicking on it, because evidently Google now wants to take that to a different place. This actual address, if you copy that and paste it in your browser, is a long list from Google of like, okay, if you go in and you type, did you know that you can use Google to only search for words on like the Wall Street Journal's website? You guys know that? Yeah. You just have to write, like, I can't remember exactly, it's described here, but if you write site, space, wallstreetjournal.com, Google will only search for instances of whatever word you're looking for that are on wallstreetjournal.com. And you can use those kinds of things to get very targeted about the information you look for about your competitors. ProQuest is great for this as well. You can get to that through our library. Like, just go to the library page on our website for the CSUB, click on databases, and then go to the letter P and find ProQuest. LinkedIn is awesome. Like I talked about already, it's unbelievable how many leads and customers you can find simply by typing in the name of a company and seeing everybody that I typed in. I was trying, like, I have a student from last fall, so a year ago, student from my 490 class who
would love to work on Wall Street eventually. He'd love to move to New York and be an investment banker. But Owen really has no contacts in investment banking, and almost no one in Bakersfield, California has the contacts in investment banking. That's just not, we're off the beaten path here. So I was curious, like, before I gave him advice, I was curious. I wanted to tell him, well, Owen, just go into LinkedIn and type in the name of a company where you'd like some contacts, and like cherry pick and tell me which ones you want to know. So I went in and typed Goldman Sachs. You guys, you finance folks are familiar with the name Goldman Sachs. Most people in here probably know the name Goldman Sachs. It's a like high-end investment bank. Like, I was blown away. If I go into LinkedIn, I was blown away. So I was just curious, how many people could I find to refer to Owen at Goldman Sachs? I have 1,146 people that I know who know someone at like I don't know Nick personally. Like, basically, these top three, I went in just to see, wow, how the hell do I know like 1,000+ connections that have something in common with Goldman Sachs? The first three are all my high school buddy Todd Ryden. Like, Todd started a website called Finex.com, which is basically it's a website where you can go to invest in private placements. So, like, if you want to buy stock in like a new IPO'd software firm, most of those are like on the NASDAQ, or there's certain other over-the-counter indexes. If you want to buy stock in Google, you buy that through like the Dow Jones, like you buy it through like the NYSE, like New York Stock Exchange, NYSE, but there's other, like, if you want to buy preferred stock in a limited offering of 5% that Warren Buffett is floating on one of his like real estate properties, like, if you don't have an invite to the party, you have no way to make that purchase. Even if you have the money, like, Warren didn't invite you, you can't come. But it's not because he doesn't want you. It's just because there's no platform for very high-end individuals to be able to find how the hell do I buy like 0.2% of of Donald Trump's hotel over here, or one of Warren Buffett's like retail properties. Like, it's a site for that. So I know Todd. Todd knows all these people. So, and if for example, if I switch again and we go back to like, instead of crowdfunding, if I go back to the scooter thing for a second, Jen, if we imagine the possibilities and move beyond like crowdfunding and venture capital to eventually like going really big, if you're looking for investors, then this is exactly how you start. You go in, type in Goldman, you type in the names of like niche investment banks, and start copying and pasting. Just simply like click here. So if you were doing this, it would show up as third, because you know me and I know Todd and Todd knows Nick. So instead of saying second, it would say third. But you can still go in and click here on the address. You can go in and copy this. You can either copy that, or you can copy the much longer address up here in the window. I prefer to like use these simple ones down at the bottom. Just copy that, and paste it, and then let me know. Jeremy, I noticed that you know Todd and Todd knows Nick, and Nick might be somebody to help us out with the funding round that we're looking to do for the scooter company now. So whatever type of customer it is, you're going to do that to reach. I was absolutely blown away. 1,000? How in the world do I know 1,000 people at Goldman? And it's unbelievable how powerful that tool is for finding not just customers, but you can find another venture, actually trucking. So one of the students last spring, her mother and the family, they own and run a company in Austria that builds the trailers. So not the trucks, but the trailers on the back. I'm sure, you guys know the name Wabash National or Great Dane? The damn trailers, they all say Great Dane on the back. That's the biggest competitor in the market. In addition to Great Dane, Wabash National is the other big one. Then Hyundai's got part of the market. But basically, we wanted to know everything we can find out about Great Dane and Wabash National, because in effect, Trucksmühle, this German company, they're really big in Germany. They don't have any customers in the United States. So Great Dane and Wabash National are their competitors. So I went in and I typed in Great Dane and Wabash National. And my cousin Patrick knows the director of sales at Wabash National. Hey, cool, Patrick. Let's go out for drinks when I'm back in Indy, and let's invite your friend from Wabash National, and let's get him drunk. And I'm going to listen to everything possible about Wabash National and write it down, and then go back and tell Anna. Now, if Patrick is not okay with that, then I won't write down information that the guy otherwise wouldn't want me to know. But this is by finding out who you know and then asking, well, Patrick, do you know this about Wabash National, or can you introduce me to another person? You can find out about competitors too, not just customers. So Chambers of Commerce, Mergent, Orbis, all of these are great information sources for finding information about customers. Last thing, market positioning maps. So how many people from your marketing classes are familiar with doing market positioning maps? Okay, Alyssa, your turn. Sorry, Chase. Tell me about it. What class was it, and what did you do?
It was just the basic marketing with Carter. It was so complicated, I don't know how to explain it. It was a bunch of different things put together that were basically trying to figure out where the market you want to push your product, I guess. Because it's a good first version. So it was focus around the 4 Ps: placement, positioning, or positioning, price. I don't know the other two.
Who taught the class?
Huh?
Who taught the class? Who was the teacher? Vince? Yeah. I love the fact that his name's Vince Carter, by the way. There's a basketball player named Vince Carter. Vinsanity. He's on the tail end of his career now, but that was the only Vince Carter I knew before my colleague who teaches marketing here. In my Vince is a marketing guy. He's the expert in this stuff. This is my version is market positioning maps for dummies. To me, it's not complicated. The only thing that's important in this is that you have X and Y axes that tell me something I didn't already know. So is there enough space over there too? Hang on. So can you guys see that more or less? Yes, no? Okay. So if I were to try and position Central Coast Transport, is that right? So if I'm trying to position Central Coast Transport, what's one of your competitors? It's not really a big company, just another one here in California.
I forgot their name. It's some Arabian name.
I'm just going to call them Arabian Trucking, okay? AT. So, and if we have like regional, national, you know, like this is going to be California focused, and this is going to be nationwide. And do they do refrigerated stuff too? And this is going to be like basically hot, cold, okay? Like Central Coast Transport, there, basically. You're regional in California. I mean, yes, you drive stuff cross country, but you don't have an office in New York or Florida too, right? Your office is out here. Same, and is Arabian Trucking the same way? So, like, their bubble is going to be right there too. So, what the hell does that tell me? It tells me that you're exactly the same. Like, I want axes that tell me something I didn't, like, tell me something that's different about the company. So, if we change this to, so do you know if Arabian Trucking has any connection to Arabia? Or is it just called that? Let's assume, because there's always like, Majid, where are you from? That's what I thought. Like, there's always like certain number of Saudi students here every quarter, every semester. Because there's oil here, there's oil in Saudi Arabia. I mean, over the course of time, I think there's been a lot of people from Saudi Arabia who have been to Kern County at one time or another to do business, and they know about Cal State Bakersfield, and there's this axis between Saudi Arabia and here. So let's say that Majid decided he doesn't ever want to go back to Saudi Arabia again. He wants to start a trucking company here, and he's going to call it like Majid Arabian, and then eventually they become, you know, he pretty much he finds out that there's a lot of people that want to ship cold stuff from California somewhere else, so he starts competing with you. But, like, Majid also has friends, family, contacts, and so forth back in Saudi Arabia. You don't, or do you? Do you know anybody in Saudi Arabia? Okay, so if instead of like regional, national, we're going to go like California only, and Cali, Saudi, then, like, you know, Majid Arabian would be here, and you're still here. That tells me something I didn't know, you know? So that tells me something different about the companies, and then the other thing that I don't want is obvious axes. So the easiest example is like price here and quality here. Like, what usually happens when price goes up? Or what happens when quality goes up? Yeah, like, are there very many companies who have crappy quality and sell for a really high price? Like, it's almost always like the relationship almost always goes like that. There's never going to be anybody up here or down here, like, except for like Vanessa and the other people in this class who are also in my BA 490 class. Group C that I was giving all the examples about today, they were here. That's why they were last place in the game, because their quality was really high and their price was really low. It's not a good combination. It's a good way to go bankrupt. And
furniture companies.
What's that?
Some furniture companies, they have high prices but bad qualities. Let's compare IKEA with another companies.
Yeah. In that case, in certain instances, if we take, you said IKEA, right?
Yeah.
If we take IKEA, like, yes, if you look simply, or IKEA in the United States pronunciation, like, it's pretty crappy quality, but like, it's got that like beautiful yellow and blue, like Swedish IKEA label, and like it's sort of a warm, happy feeling. Like, okay, if it's from IKEA, like at least I know. It's like McDonald's. I mean, McDonald's sucks, but at least you know the French fries are always going to taste the same. You know, IKEA sucks, but at least you know it's always from IKEA. And there's a certain like, so brand quality can actually sometimes make up for the actual product quality. But in general, you got to have something to offer. If it's not the physical quality of the products, then it's something about like the name recognition or whatever. Not very often do you have absolutely nothing to offer and you still charge a really high price. Sometimes, but not very often. Make sense? Okay. I went a little longer than I wanted to, but it's still like half hour early, right? That's not too bad. So, last thing here, if you do a market positioning map, I want a description of why you put each company where you did and what the axes mean. Use an example here. Otherwise, that's all I had to talk about. That's pretty much what will be on the quiz for the first 4 topics. Everything else we'll talk about next week. Have a nice weekend. And where is my sign-up sheet? Did I pass it out? Okay, thank goodness. See ya. Have a good weekend. The question wasn't, where's my sheet?
We gave it to you.
What? How did I get? When did somebody give this to me?
I gave it to you at the beginning of class.
I totally forgot. Thank you.
Yeah, well.
Hey, I know you weren't. And you're not sitting in the right place anymore, huh?
No, I wasn't. I kind of figured.
Well, I forget what project did we put you on?
Scooter.
Yeah, you're gonna be back in the back. Like I put everybody on the scooter project
In the back.
back there. Okay. Anything else?
No,
That was easy enough.
Yeah. I'm missing the signing sheet.
Okay, I gotta turn off this recording before I forget.